Good morning. Welcome to Creation Speaks. My name is Shawn. I am currently standing in my workshop. It's a I like my little workshop. I do a lot of woodworking and coffee roasting, and it's a place that I can really get away to. And we're really in the workshop of God. God is doing we are God's workmanship. And I hope through these podcasts, through the articles on my website, that we all can get a better grasp of what God has for us, that we are his workmanship, that we have purpose, we have meaning. And the days aren't just some boring day after day, same thing as yesterday, but that we are in the workshop of God and he's making us into something that's after his own heart. And today I'm looking at one of the articles on my website called What's in Your Hand? What has God placed in your hand? We have ideas, we have plans, we think a lot about the future. We make goals, it's the beginning of the year and a lot of you are making goals and New Year's resolutions and we have plans and it's okay to do that. The scripture says man plans his ways, but ultimately it's God who directs our steps. I've always been kind of a daydreamer. When I was in grade school, my teacher once said to my mom, Sean's a great kid and he's here, but he's not here. The reason I wasn't there is because I was in my desk. I was physically there, but I was exploring imaginary worlds. I was running through the woods, building tree forts, and, you know, all those little things that we used to do when we were young. You know, and I'm still a dreamer. I spend hours exploring ideas and dreams, and maybe that's why I enjoy writing, because writing gives me an outlet to pull the thoughts from my head and put them on paper. I have pages and pages of journal entries where I talk about what God's doing in my life. Maybe I'm talking about things that stand out to me that I'm reading in the scripture or business ideas or whatever. I'm capturing them. And so I'm wondering how I'm going to transition from that thought to what I have to say. And what I mean by that is how do we transition from what's in our minds and what's on the paper to what God is calling us to? Because yes, we have our ideas, but we do at some point have momentum and movement. You know, if I was a farmer and dreaming of a great harvest, I may want to go outside and get the plow and start to prepare the soil, but there has to be that transition. I can think about having a great harvest, I can dream about having a great harvest, but unless I go out and do the work, prepare the soil, plant the seeds, tend the seeds, you know, that's your transition. That's when you begin to do the work. What's in your hands as a farmer? He wakes up and he's like, well, what am I supposed to do today? Yet he's dreaming of a future harvest. Well, God's given him seed. He's given him a plow. He's given him the land. And now he can go and begin to do something with that. And we have today, and that's an excellent place to start, using what God has given you today. You may not have the resources for something way out in the future, but you do have today and God's provision, his grace today. I've pondered often the question that God asked Moses. God had asked Moses, what's in your hand? And Moses replied, a staff. And God would go on to use that staff as a resource for Moses. And God uses those things in our lives for his purposes. The question that God asked Moses is an excellent question to ask ourselves. We make our happiness tied to some future event. Do you do that? way off in the future, once I get here, once I get there, well, that's when I'm going to be happy. We think of when we get to that specific place in life, then everything will fall into place. That's not how it works. What's in your hand today? That's where it starts. When Jesus taught the disciples to pray, one easy to miss item he mentioned was, "Give us this day our daily bread." God provides us everything we need today. I'm sure when Jesus said that, they may have remembered stories about God providing manna in the wilderness. When the Israelites wandered through the wilderness, God provided manna each day. They were the only ones allowed to gather. They were only allowed to gather enough for that one day. And what God has given you today, He's given it to you today. You don't have to worry about the future, but He's given what you need today. You know, I once read an article, and it kind of resonated with me. And if you head out to my website, creationspeaks.com, there's a link to that article. And Austin writes, "I just do the work in front of me." I know that's pretty basic and simple, but what has God put in your hands today? What's right in front of you? You know, I sat here this morning, should I write an article? Should I do a podcast? Should I do this or that? And really, it's just about, take something that God has put right before you and start working on it. Pray about it, seek God about it, but then start working on it. What would happen if we just did the work that's right in front of us and did it with excellence? By God's grace, that should be my goal and that should be your goal. I read a quote by C.S. Lewis once that I thought was very fitting, that fits in here really well. And now C.S. Lewis was preparing sermons during World War II, and so this was kind of taken from that, so they had the weight of World War II upon them. And when there's a difficulties, it's hard to make plans and move forward, and you don't know when the future is so uncertain. But he said, happy work is best done by the man who takes his long-term plans somewhat lightly and works from moment to moment. He said, it is only our daily bread that we are encouraged to ask for. The present is the only time in which any duty can be done or any grace received. That's wisdom there. Hold your long-term plans somewhat lightly and just do what God has given you to do today. Yeah, it's okay to make those plans, and sometimes those plans can seem so uncertain because we don't know the future, but we do have today. And God asks us to pray for our daily bread today, and He will provide and He will guide. And now take what He's given you today and begin to move forward. Take those thoughts about the future, the dreams, capture them, pray about them, but then take what God has supplied you today and move forward. I hope that helps in encouraging you, and that maybe we can go today and take what God has given today and begin to do something with that, to plow the soil, to plant the seeds, to tend the seeds, or maybe it's to harvest. Whatever God has put in your hands today, go and do that by His grace. I hope you have a great day. Head over to creationspeaks.com for more.